So the first case we are going to talk about is the murder of Suzanne Jacobson. Suzanne Jacobson was born February 5th, 1962 in Staten Island, New York. She was the second oldest of 7 children in the Jacobson family. And her parents, Bill and Ellen Jacobson, resided at 30 Anderson Avenue in Port Richmond neighborhood of Staten Island. And the Jacobs household was bustling with activity due to the enormous amount of children, and Susan often helped babysit her younger siblings. And at 14 years old, Susan was described as a responsible and caring individual. She was known for her very warm personality and was very well liked by all of her peers. And academically, she did very well in school, showing promise for a very bright future. And Susan was also very much looking forward to gaining independence through part-time work, which led her to seek employment at a local ice cream parlor. So in the summer of 1975, Susan would begin dating a 16-year-old named Dempsey Hawkins, who lived nearby. And the relationship was just typical teenage romance, but became very complicated over time, because in January 1976, Susan would become pregnant, and subsequently she would have an abortion. And following this event, her parents encouraged her to take a break from the relationship to focus on her well-being and education. But despite this advice, Susan and Dempsey continued to see each other secretly. And on May 15th, 1976, Susan would leave her home at around 1 p.m. to interview for a job at Ralph's Ices, an ice cream parlor located at the intersection of Catherine Street and Port Richmond Avenue. And she would be dressed in blue denim pants, blue sneakers with yellow shoelaces, and a white tube or halter top, and a long sleeve beige blouse. And notably, she also wore blue tinted wireframe glasses and had long light brown hair parted right down the middle. And when Susan didn't return home for dinner, her parents started to grow very, very concerned, because this was not how she was. She was a rule follower. She was never late for dinner. And they would end up calling police to report her missing, feeling that something was very amiss. But the initial response from the police was very dismissive. Authorities suggested that Susan had likely just run away, possibly even with her boyfriend, and told the Jacobsons that they lacked the resources to search for runaways. And this reaction was extremely frustrating for the family, who were convinced that Susan would not have just left voluntarily without money or any of her personal belongings. So undeterred by the lack of official assistance, the Jacobson family mobilized dozens of friends and families for the search for Susan. They distributed flyers, canvassed the neighborhood, and reached out to anyone that might have information. And their efforts, however, yielded no significant leads. But in comes Dorothy Allison, our first psychic. She was a self-proclaimed psychic from New Jersey, known for her involvement in several criminal cases. She claimed to possess clairvoyant abilities that allowed her to provide insights into unsolved crimes. While some law enforcement officials were skeptical of her abilities, others acknowledged that she had occasionally provided very useful information. And desperate for any assistance, Bill and Ellen Jacobson contacted Dorothy Allison 2 weeks after Susan's disappearance. And remarkably, upon answering the phone immediately, Dorothy reported saying, "I know who you are, and I know why you're calling me. Just give me your address, and I'll be there in 45 minutes. How didn't you know the address? And how'd you know it'd be 45 minutes away? I'm just being an asshole. Sorry. But creepy! Anyway, when Dorothy arrived, she provided several specific clues for them immediately. She mentioned the numbers 2562 and 408 and 405. And 2562 corresponded to Susan's birthday, February 5th, 1962, which, you know, I'm sure on the news you would see like how old the person is and probably the birth date would be available. So that one's like, all right. 405 was the time of Susan's birth. Who the f would know that? Nobody. So that's interesting. And she inquired about the letters M-A-R, written in large red letters specifically. And she described an abandoned car, an overpowering smell of oil, dual church steeples, dual smokestacks, 2 bridges close together, one not for cars, swamps, and marshes. So very specific scene. And she stated that Susan had been strangled by her boyfriend and was located in a place matching these descriptions. But despite Dorothy's very detailed insights, the police were unwilling to collaborate with a psychic. So they dismissed her information, leaving the Jacobsons to pursue these clues independently. So Bill Jacobson, along with his friends, began to search the areas that matched Dorothy's descriptions, particularly focusing on the Port Ivory section of Staten Island, known as the Downback. And during their search, Bill Jacobson found a rock with M-A-R on it, painted in red letters. Freaky deaky, man. At the abandoned Downey's shipyard, also known as Mariner's Marsh. Recognizing the significance of this find, he brought Dorothy to the location, and she confirmed, this is it. This is where your daughter is. And despite their conviction, without official support, their search efforts were limited. And on March 25th, 1978, nearly 2 years after Susan's disappearance, 3 boys hunting muskrats discovered her skeletal remains inside a 55-gallon oil drum in a 12-foot shaft leading to an underground bunker at Downey's shipyard. And the location was approximately 100 yards from the rock with MAR written on it. Whoa, I got chills. And an autopsy would confirm that Susan had been strangled. The condition of her remains and the surrounding environments aligned with Dorothy's description, including the smell of oil and the proximity to the landmarks that she had mentioned, which is wild. Following the discoveries, attention turned to Susan's boyfriend, Dempsey Hawkins. Investigators learned that he had confided in a friend and a cousin, admitting that he had strangled Susan. Additionally, after her disappearance, Hawkins had misled the family by suggesting that Susan had left for Florida or Chicago. And he also had participated in the searches, potentially to deflect suspicion. And Hawkins at this point had relocated to Joppa, Illinois, to live with his father shortly after Susan's disappearance, further raising suspicions. So on May 6, 1978, Hawkins was arrested and charged for second-degree murder of Susan. And prosecutors had argued that he killed Susan because he could not accept the end of their relationship. And on February 1979, Hawkins was convicted and sentenced to 22 years to life in prison. And during the trial, Dorothy Allison's identification of Hawkins as the perpetrator was noted, but did not serve as primary evidence, obviously. It was just really freaky, dude. Like, what are the odds? And Dorothy Allison's involvement in the case remains a subject of debate. While the information she provided was remarkably accurate, skepticism persists regarding the validity of psychic abilities. Critics argue that clues could have been derived from publicly available information and general knowledge of the area. But either way, I mean, you know, you have knowledge of the area, but he was pretty darn specific. She even knew the way she was murdered, which is like, I don't know. I truly do believe people have these abilities and everything, and I think it's extraordinary that they could actually help people in these certain cases. So I think follow all leads, you know. But horrible, absolutely horrendous what happened to Susan, and I hope Dempsey is rotten in jail. But that brings us to our next murder and psychic, Melanie Uribe and Etta Smith. So Melanie Mayron Uribe, which I hope I'm saying that last name right, was a 31-year-old licensed vocational nurse living in Arleta, California. A divorced single mother of an 8-year-old son, she was known for her dedication to her profession and her reliability. Employed at Pacoima Hospital in Burbank, California, Melanie was recognized for her compassionate care and commitment to her patients. And her routine life revolved around work and raising her son. And she was considered a very valued member of her community. And Etta Smith was aged 32 at the time and working as a shipping clerk at Lockheed Aerospace plant in Burbank, California, holding a top security clearance due to her position. She was regarded as a very responsible and credible individual. Smith was a mother also and had no prior history of psychic experiences or involvement with law enforcement investigations. Prior to the events involving Uribe, she lived a very conventional life, balancing her professional responsibilities with her family duties. So on the evening of December 15th, 1980, Melanie was scheduled to work a night shift at the Pacoima Hospital. She left her home driving her pickup truck, but never arrived at her workplace. Concerned colleagues contacted her home but received no response. And given her reputation for punctuality and responsibility, her unexplainable absence raised immediate concerns with her peers. And witnesses would later report seeing 2 men force their way into her truck while she stopped at a traffic light. And the following morning, the police would find her abandoned and burned out pickup truck along with her nurse's uniform, intensifying fears that she had met with foul play. So on December 17th, 1980, while working at Lockheed, Etta Smith heard a news report on the radio about the disappearance of a local nurse named Melanie Uribe. And upon hearing this, Smith experienced what she described as a sudden and vivid vision or mental image. She later recounted this. It was as if I saw a picture. I saw a canyon area, I saw a road, I saw it curving, I saw a dirt path, I saw shrubbery, and I saw white through the shrubbery. I could not clearly see what the white was, but it was something distinctively white. And Smith would feel a very strong compulsion to act on this vision, believing that the white object she perceived might be Melanie's nurse's uniform. And believing that her vision might be crucial to finding Melanie, Smith decided to contact the Los Angeles Police Department, otherwise known as the LAPD. And she would meet with Detective Lee Ryan and conveyed the details of her vision. And despite initial skepticism, Ryan noted Smith's sincerity and the specific details that she provided. She identified the location from her vision as Lopez Canyon. But concerned that police might not act swiftly on her information, Smith felt the urgent need to search the area herself. And she enlisted the help of her daughter, Tina, and a family friend. And together they would drive to Lopez Canyon to look for any signs of Melanie. And upon arriving, Smith reported experiencing intense feelings of dread and a sense of Melanie's presence. She described feeling an energy or trauma that compelled her to continue searching. And while exploring the area, Smith and her companions noticed a fresh set of tire tracks leading off the main road. And following these tracks, they discovered a partially concealed body in the brush. And Smith recognized the white nurse's shoes, confirming her fears that they had found Melanie. And she would immediately contact police and report her discovery. Chills. Like, what? I don't know, man. Like, this, like, and especially not even knowing her, like, not being connected. Anyway, an autopsy later confirmed the body was indeed Melanie, and she had been robbed, unfortunately SA'd, and beaten to death as well. And initially, law enforcement officials were perplexed by Smith's accurate knowledge of where the body's location was. Detectives even began questioning how she could have known about the specific details without being involved in the crime itself, which is like a natural thing to come to. And their skepticism was also fueled by the absence of physical evidence linking her to the crime scene. Yet her information was undeniably precise. So on the evening of December 17th, Smith was summoned to the police station for further questioning. And over several hours, detectives repeatedly asked her to recount her story, looking for inconsistencies, and despite her cooperation, they remained very doubtful of her account. And Smith voluntarily underwent 2 polygraph tests, believing that they would confirm her innocence. However, detectives falsely informed her that she had failed both tests, which I don't think is allowed, but what do I know? And based on their suspicions, they arrested her as an accessory to murder, and Smith would be detained in jail for several days, during which she maintained her innocence and insisted that her only involvement was through her psychic vision. And while Smith was in custody, the investigation took a very significant turn. A police informant would come forward with an information about individuals bragging about involvement in Melanie's murder, and the lead directed detectives to 3 young men from the local area. So on December 21st, police arrested Louis Carnell Morgan, who was 20 years old, and Normus Willis, who was 17 years old, and Spencer Nelson, who was 21 years old. And under interrogation, the men did confess to the abduction and murder of Melanie Urad, and they admitted to forcing their way into her truck, robbing her, and ultimately killing her by beating her with a large rock in Lopez Canyon. And with the true perpetrators in custody, all charges against Etta Smith were dropped and she was released from jail. But Etta Smith's case raises important ethical and legal questions. Her wrongful arrest highlights the potential risks faced by individuals who come forward with unconventional information. Law enforcement must balance skepticism with openness and all possible leads, ensuring that innocent people are not unjustly accused and lied to, by the way. Additionally, the case underscores the need for proper investigative protocols and dealing with information obtained through non-traditional means. And following her release, Etta Smith pursued legal action against the LAPD for wrongful arrest, as she should. And she filed a lawsuit alleging false imprisonment and violation of her civil rights. Fuck yeah. And reports indicate that she did win the settlement, although the details remained private. And her experience brought her some unexpected attention, naturally. And she continued to explore her psychic abilities and reportedly assisted on other missing persons cases. Her story has even been featured in television programs and interviews, contributing to the ongoing discussions about psychic phenomenon and their place in society. So, badass, man. Badass. I love how she went out and just like looked forward to and everything. Like, she just took initiative. Unlike the LAPD, they had a bad rap. I'm sure there's a lot of good ones, but I don't know. It's fucked up, but that's crazy. I don't know, just like having that, like 30 years old, just having like this That's So Raven vision of somebody's body and stuff is just wild. But I'm excited to talk about our next psychic, and that is my best friend, Selena Spooky Boo. So let's go over to that interview.
We were here with Selena Spooky Boo, my best friend and psychic. And also I am in Caleb's grandmother's bedroom right now. That's why I look like, that's why it looks like this. And why there's a lion behind me. Can you see her? Or him, I mean. So basically, the video I've been doing is talking about psychics that have solved crimes. And the first person I thought of was you, because you've told me in the past that this has actually happened to you. Is it multiple times or just one time?
Oh no, it happens. So mostly it like happens to me dream-wise. Like I've probably had 4 or 5 different cases, but there's also been moments where I see things or people will come to me with like messages, but like it never connects with anything that I can find. But the most intense one was the one that happened, like the recent one that you knew about.
Walk them through it. What happened, man?
So obviously I'm going to keep some names out of it because it is local and it is something that happened, but there was a person who had gone missing. Obviously that's what we're here for. Yeah. I went to bed that night and I was just really thinking kind of about this person, and I was laying in bed, and it always happens right as I'm like kind of falling asleep, which is just like, you know, whenever we do things.
Yes.
I saw this person. I saw them sitting in their backyard. I saw them getting up. I saw them going to a liquor store, and I saw them going to a track, and I saw them going a certain area down and going into the woods and walking about 40 feet into the woods. And the interesting thing was, a couple days later, I was convinced that I needed to go look, and Adam was like, "You're not going out by yourself, and I'm not coming with you." So
you Snapchatted
the next
me.
day was, yeah, I did. I did. I'm like, I feel like I should go.
Yeah, you were Snapchatting me.
Yeah, Adam's best friend was going the next day to a search party that was going to happen in the morning. And I got up and I was starting to get ready. And I was like, I feel like I shouldn't go, but I need to tell somebody. So I actually went and I pulled up a map of the area and I circled exactly where I thought he was. And I sent it to Adam's friend. And I literally feel crazy when I talk about it. So that morning it was breakfast and we were up, and I'm like, I feel like they're going to find him really soon. And about 4 minutes later, I got a ding on my phone, and it was from Adam's friend, and he said, "We found him." And I was like, dead or alive? Because I had thought he was dead, and he said he's gone. And I'm like, where? And he wouldn't message back. He didn't message us back. And he's like, "I'm coming to your house." So he came to our house, and pretty much he was like, "How did you know?"
Yeah.
Because he was exactly where you circled. And the strange thing that he said is that he showed the police, and the police said, "Don't go to that area. We've already looked there."
Yeah.
So him and a bunch of other people went back to that area, and he was there.
That's
where I had circled, which is insane. But a lot of this started like when I was young. There was this case, and I kept dreaming about this same girl. She was blonde, she was beautiful, and she looked familiar, but I didn't know where. And she told me kind of who had killed her, and that she was in the woods, and all the clues were in the woods. And then one day my mom had on the news, and it was Holly Bobo, which is a case of a girl who got murdered. Like, so really you should do an episode. Really interesting. Really interesting case. But that's 2 of like the main times that it happened.
Yeah.
And then a couple years ago, there was one where this kind of like, I was in my living room, and this was one that happened not during sleep, which was freaky. And it was almost like I was watching TV, and out of the corner of my eye, I just saw a young man standing over here, and he's like, "I'm right at the edge of the water." And as I looked, he left, but I knew what he looked like. So I started searching, and literally like a couple towns over, a boy had gone missing. And it was like the craziness was the succession of it, because about 45 minutes later it came on cable news that they found him like right in the edge of the water, and he had drowned.
When did he die?
It was the day before, like he had gone missing in the water, and then by the next day they found him. But it happened. And then bam. And it was weird because I didn't have a connection to any of these people.
Yeah, that's what's weird. And that's what's happened. I think one of the cases not related at all. Oh yeah, one was the mom or something. But one was, or maybe it wasn't, I can't remember. But one was completely unrelated, and she had never had any psychic like things happen to her ever. And it was so freaky. And then with the first guy you were talking about, how did he die? Was it drowning as well, or?
No, the first guy in the woods, it never came out. Like, no one ever spoke about it. I wasn't able to find out how. Like, I know personally what I saw, but
so what did you see?
I'm afraid to say it just because it is local, and I don't want it to like.
That's fair.
Come back on me. But I think that I know. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you knew where his whole body was, I'm assuming you
Yeah.
could probably have a good idea. That's interesting that they wouldn't share that. Like, it makes you, I don't know.
Well, it's a small community, and you know, I think that family had already been through so much. So, like, I've never spoken on it, but the one thing that did freak me out was before I talked to Adam's friend, I had actually sent the map to someone who had organized a bunch of stuff that I didn't know was his sister. And she was like, well, how do you know him? And I was like, oh God, back off. And I didn't message her back. So like after this all happened, like for 2 days, I like was waiting because I was like, are the cops gonna show up? Because that's the thing. Like if cops show up and they're like, hey, how did you know this horrible thing?
That happens, yeah.
And how do I be like, oh, so like I dreamt about it?
Yeah.
Then they're like, okay, where were you at 3 p.m. on a Tuesday?
Yeah, you need an alibi. Yeah, and that also was one of the cases I talked about. She literally went to jail. Like, and then they eventually found out, like, it wasn't her. But it was like, how else would you know?
No,
like,
how would you know?
Have committed this crime.
But the weird thing is, like, I will have dreams that are literally like little clippets like that, kind of like when we do our ghost investigation. It's not a lot during the day. But I think, you know, talking about the most interesting one, this one really ties because you're talking about ones where people were involved and weren't. But the most intense one for me was the Tori Stafford case, which, as we know, I testified against that murderer in court. The day that she went missing was insane. I did Big Brothers Big Sisters. My co-op was 4 periods. I worked in the schools with little girls that were about Tori Stafford's age. After school, everybody was handing out flyers. I printed flyers. I put them on posts. That night I went to bed and all I could dream about was a man's legs, a girl's legs, and a woman's legs walking along a tree line. That's all it was. And I said, Mom, like, I think she's like with a mom or a dad, or like she's with a man and a woman. And then of course, months later, we found out that she was killed by Michael Rafferty and Terry Lynn McClintock. And it was in Mount Forest along this tree line where she was found. So I saw that, like, and then that was insane because I didn't even know at this point that I was connected to that case at all whatsoever.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, what does that make you feel like?
I will never not say it doesn't make me feel crazy. It always makes me feel crazy because when you see these things in your head, you feel like you're making it up and you feel like you're lying. But then when it comes and it's been validated, you feel like nothing's real and we live in a simulation.
Yeah, that's kind of what I think. It's just like this weird, it's like a simulation almost. Like, how are you connected? Like something glitched. Or like
something glitched.
You're not quite wired right, or you're wired more extensively.
Some radar is on. I'm some goddamn REM pod. Like I'm just a tracking thing. But it's just like you. Like when we go into places, like with these certain videos, you'd be like, I've dreamt this. I've seen this.
Yeah.
But it's like,
it's really weird. Mm-hmm. Or like deja vu, even like everybody experiences that, but like it's like almost different levels of it, I guess.
Yeah.
Like sometimes it's stronger than other times, or like for me, it's mostly just been when I like related people. Like I knew when my grandma died before anybody else knew about it, that kind of thing. Or like dreamt about her, which is like, I don't know, maybe that's just a paranormal thing. Maybe she was allowed to like do a couple errands before she went to heaven or something. I don't know.
No,
it makes me think too much. I'm like, what?
I have a cool exercise for you that you should try.
Okay.
You should get Caleb to look up a murder case, but just give you the person's name and age and location. Lay down, get out of your flies, lay down and try and figure out what happened to them. Write it down on paper and see how close you were.
I like that. I'm going to do that.
Do it.
I'm going to try that. He'll be like, all right. I'll just freak him out. I don't know. I'm going to try that though. But thank you so much for telling us your stories. Go follow Selena on everything. It's Selena Spooky Boo on everything, I think.
Yep.
And yeah, I'm sure we'll do more spooky videos together. And I'm going to do some psychic exercises.
Yeah. That'd be a sick episode.
Yeah, actually, yeah, that would be. Maybe we'll have to do another video together like that.
Okay, everybody, I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, please like the video. It always helps out the channel. And also subscribe if you want to subscribe. This is obviously the best YouTube channel ever. And I will see your beautiful face in the next video. All right? Bye.